Alright, so let's get started, everybody. How's everybody out there doing? How many people we got there? We got, 1, 2, 3. Ow, ow. Okay. Alright, so, let me try to do this comfortably. Okay. So that's 2 people, including us. I'll give, I don't know, let's see, what time is it? 7:35. We'll give everybody 5 more minutes. Couple more seats filled. This is gonna be like this is gonna be like the key that opens the door class. So this is gonna be cool. Gonna open up all the doors today. See, you know what it is? What I'm doing here? I'm teaching everybody about reality as a whole, but I'm really gonna show everybody how to get out of this. And there's not gonna be an excuse. Before graduation, nobody's gonna have an excuse for still being in hell and still being in debt and still having problems. Nobody's gonna have an excuse. See? You're gonna know how. You're gonna be able to teach other people how after this. Okay, so we're gonna get started. Let's see. New contracts, because we have discussed eliminating the old ones already. Now, I'm going to start this class with the most important new contract that there is. Okay? And this new contract for us is one of the oldest contracts that ever existed. Okay? And it is called the Pactum Salutis. The reason why I'm teaching about the Pactum Salutis first tonight is because the Pactum Salutis is the opposite of the Unum Sanctum. I'm going to repeat that. The Pactum Salutis is the opposite of the Unum Sanctum. Okay? It is the counter contract to the Unum Sanctum. Alright. Now, I'm going to ask that everybody turn their mics off. We're about to get started. Now, the Pactum Salutis. The Pactum Salutis is the covenant of redemption, right? And it's an agreement of the Father and the Son concerning the covenant of grace and its ratification in and through the work of the Son incarnate. The Son covenants with the Father in the unity of the Godhead to be the temporal sponsor of the Father's testamentum, in and through the work of the mediator. In that work, the Son fulfills his sponsor fiducioso, which is his guarantee of payment of the debt of sin and ratification of the Father's testamentum. All right. Now, what this means, right, is that this is the contract between the Father in heaven and the Son, right? And in this contract, the Son promises to carry out the Father's will. Okay? Right? Now, that's the Pactum Salutis. And the Son also promises, right, to take care of us, God's creations. That's his contract with his Son. And we get into how that is important to us right now. Because the Pactum Salutis has three parts. There's the Pactum Salutis, the Historia Salutis, and the Ordo Salutis. Now, the Historia Salutis refers to the actual events in space and time by which God brings salvation to his people. Okay? Now, what that means is the Historia Salutis is the part of the Pactum Salutis where the evidence of this contract has been recorded. Okay? So all the times in history, right, where God brings salvation to his people, it is through his Son, Christ Michael. Michael, because I say Michael first because before he incarnated on earth as Christ, right, God has been bringing salvation to his creations, right, before Christ. So, it has been God and Michael that have been working together to bring salvation to people throughout history. That is what the Historia Salutis is explaining. The examples are the creation, the fall, the flood, the call of Abraham, the Exodus, the captivity, the life and death of Christ, the Pentecost. All of those events are examples of the Historia Salutis. Okay? Now, the importance of these events, the importance of the Historia Salutis, is that for those that believe, right, and for those that do not believe, whether you believe or not, these events happen throughout history. You see? So the Historia Salutis is also the evidence that God is real, that the Son is real, and that he brings salvation to his people throughout history and will continue to do so. Okay? Now, the Ordo Salutis refers to the application of the great acts of God in the life history of the individual believer, which is to say, right, that the Ordo Salutis it describes the order of these events in individuals' lives. Also, right, the fact that there is an order to God's assistance to us, to his people. And it's based on this first contract. Now, the reason why I say that the Pactum Salutis is the opposite and the counter contract to the Unum Sanctum is because if one so chooses, and one should so choose, you can actually accept this contract. Now, we can get into contracts, but I'm not going to do that in this class. We'll get into it in another class. But any contract that you do not acknowledge and accept, you are not a part of it. Tell you a little trick, because we are past the whole Constitution, We're past that. We're not claiming constitutional rights. The only time we mention the Constitution at all is Amendment 1. And we stop there. I don't, I really have no concerns with any of the other amendments of the Constitution. Okay, excuse me. Right. Okay, now, here's a little tip, trick, secret. The Constitution. If you look at an actual copy of the Constitution, where the signatures are, you'll notice there's a bunch of space. There's a bunch of space there. That space is for new people to acknowledge and accept the Constitution by signing their names on it and then getting that, notarized and recorded. Seriously. Which is to say that if you do not acknowledge and accept the Constitution, then it does not pertain to you. But anyway, this works with all contracts. So, it is that, being that this is a paper game, I found that it is very smart, in order to counter the unum sanctum, to accept and acknowledge the pactum salutis. Now, this is something that I did not give you. Why didn't I give it to you? Because you've seen and taken care of enough documents up to this point that I can test you with this one. Now, what you're going to do, if you so choose, and you really should choose to, but I'm not going to push it on anybody, right? But those choose to. What you need to do is you need to find an acknowledgement and acceptance, an acceptance template sample, right? You need to study it. Doesn't matter what type of acceptance acknowledgement document this is, because you're going to be taking it apart. What you're going to do is you're going to take this acceptance acknowledgement template and you're going to customize it. And customize it to accept and acknowledge the pactum salutis. Now, when you do that, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be listing. First, you're going to state that you're acknowledging the pactum salutis contract. You're going to briefly explain what it is. Then you're going to list these three parts: the pactum salutis, the historia salutis, and the ordo salutis. Right? You're going to also edit these three things, because you're going to take out the extra details and just leave what they actually are. So an example would be: the historia salutis refers to the actual events in space and time by which God brings salvation to his people, period. Right? The ordo salutis, right? The ordo salutis refers to the application of the great acts of God in the life history of the individual believer, period. Right? So you would list those three things in this acknowledgement, and you would have that notarized. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You would have that witnessed. Oh, my gosh. Witnessed and sealed, right? With everything else. But this one you're going to create yourself. All right? Now, it was very important that we go over that first, because we need to know everything that is the opposite of what happened to us. We know that the unum sanctum is the source of, actually Lucifer rebelling against God is the source of what we're dealing with. But on earth, right, we are dealing with the rebellion against God by Caligastia, which is the devil. But then the devil made a contract with, he created a church in honor of himself, and then created the unum sanctum contract. Okay? Which came from the Vatican. And so, we need to know that the Pactum Salutis is what we use to counter the Unum Sanctum. So that goes on top of everything that we're doing, right? So that would be the source of everything that we're doing. These three things, the Pactum Salutis, the Historia Salutis, and the Ordo Salutis, is the source of everything that we're doing. You see? Whereas the Unum Sanctum is the source of everything that they're doing. So we need to cover that before we get into the whole name change, status change, baptism. You know, we need to put that on top. We need to know that that is on top. Of course, logically, when you read these three things, they are before all else. Okay, move on. Now, the business trust. Wow, Machete, how did we go from the contracts with God, the Pactum Salutis, to the business trust? Well, there's a method to my madness, okay? Now, the Pactum Salutis goes above everything else that we're doing in this process, right? We have discussed the baptism. We have discussed the name change, the status change. Now we need to get into the trust, right? So let me explain this to you guys really quick. You might need to get your pens and paper out now, because this is the cool part. Okay? Now, here's how this process works. Here's how it works. Here's what works. Okay? All right. Now, as to not ignore what we just discussed, I will say that you will have your Pactum Salutis acknowledgement and acceptance. This is just to put together a checklist, okay? Right? You have your baptismal certificate. You have your notice of reconciliation and pardon, right? And those documents cover your baptism, right? The baptism cleanses you of all your sins and debts, so you're not going to have to worry about that after changing your name status, your name and your status, right? Okay. Now, after the baptism and you receive your new name, what's next is that you create a trust. You create a trust. You create a trust with a name similar to the new name of your baptism. Okay? Now, that is how you operate in the world, but not of the world. In the public, but not of the public. Okay? So, this trust, this entity that you are creating, right? Because you are in the public, right? But not of the public, because you're in the public itself, right? Everything is commerce. Everything is business in the public, okay? So, you are creating this trust to operate in the public. That means you're doing business. You want to do business in the public. To continue to call this trust a business trust for the sake of us discussing operating in the private and operating in the public, but being private. Okay, I'm gonna keep saying business trust, but before I continue, I want you to know, right, that on paper, right, you have the option of this being business trust, ministerial trust. You have the option, right? Now, I know you guys might have heard of ecclesiastical trust, but I'm telling you now that there is no such thing, okay? There's no such thing. It's called a ministerial trust. You go to a law dictionary, you look up trust. There's going to be like, I don't know, 200-300 different species of trust listed under the word trust in the law dictionary. And being that we are coming from an ecclesiastical standpoint, right? We use that word now. Being that we're coming from a standpoint of our belief system, right? From the standpoint of our beliefs, our firmly held beliefs, right? The ministerial trust is what we use with the church, and whether it's called a business trust or not, right? You have the option to give it whichever title you want, but they still function the same way. It depends on what you're doing out there in the public, right? Okay, but for the most part, you'll be conducting business because you want to open up bank accounts. You may want to go to school. You might want to get an apartment, a house, a car. This is all business, so we're going to call it the business trust. Cool. Now, a business trust is a little-known form of business organization, still perfectly legal in many states, right? Now, I want you to know that the private trust is legal in all states, okay? Now, the business trust, and I wanted to just get that out of the way, because the private trust, there's no law anywhere that can deny a private trust. There's no jurisdiction above private trust. You can look that up, play with that when you get bored. But the business trust will operate as a standalone entity just like a person, but not a person, because a private trust is not considered as a person, because it's not a corporation. Now, it's a standalone entity just like a person that can conduct business, hold title to property, maintain bank accounts, and assert or defend itself in civil court actions. Persons having claims or judgments against the trust may only look to the trust property for payment. Okay? Now, let me explain what that means. Okay? What you're trying to get out of, what everyone's working on getting out of, is the KV trust, the birth certificate trust contract that I would say voluntarily, but unknowingly, like, we volunteered, but we didn't know what we were volunteering into, and our parents didn't either. So, right, all these contracts that we signed throughout our lives, we screwed up. Okay, we made a mistake. And the reason why I say that is because we could have read these contracts. Nobody does. We just know you need a social security number to get a job, to get money. Now, I don't know how old everybody is, but I had to go to the Social Security building and get a Social Security number when I was a kid. I had to go get the card, right? And I had to fill out the application. I filled it out. I didn't read it. I didn't turn it around to the back and read it. I didn't read anything that they handed me, except the words next to the blank spaces that I had to fill in. That's what most people do. That makes it our fault. Fine, they assign social security numbers to babies now, so they don't have choice, right? But what I'm saying is that any generation from, I don't know, the late 70s and up, we had to go get our social security numbers and our social security cards. Okay? Now, what happened was our parents signed us up for school. But they didn't sign us up for school. They signed up the person for school. The person is who's on record in the school. It is your body that represented that trust and sat in as a representative for that trust in school. It wasn't you that had the job. It's your trust on your employer's paperwork. Not you. Your bills, not your bills. Trust name is on those bills. So what I'm saying is that when you are baptized, get a new name, create a new private trust, right? And there is no more Sesta KV trust. People are like, well, Machete, well, if I don't have my social security card, if I don't have a license, if I don't have a birth certificate, how am I supposed to pay my bills? How do I get a job? How do I go to school? Because, man, the same way you did before. You create a new trust, right, which is the positive version, right? Well, not positive version, but which is the positive trust, the new positive trust, right? The new positive trust gets an EIN number, which is the same thing as a Social Security number, right? This new private trust has a name similar to your new baptized name, same way they did when you were born, with the birth certificate name and created Social Security number with the all capital letter name. The same thing, you're doing the same thing, but but on the positive private side. You see, right? Okay. Next, right? You have new name, new status, new citizenship, new trust. That trust has a tax identification number, right? But how do we avoid taxes? We apply for EIN numbers because, right? Because, man, the trick to that is you get the EIN number, that's it, file nothing, okay? You have the EIN number because people are going to ask you for it. That's why you have it. It's the only reason why you have it. It's because you need it to do business with. There's no other reason for it. Now, in regards to, well, don't we have to have the 98 series EIN for it to be foreign and outside the jurisdiction of the United States government? No. Listen, let me tell you how that's a trick and a trap. As soon as you get a 98 series EIN number, a red dot starts bleeping on the government's computer screen, and they know that there's a new sovereign citizen somewhere to go shoot or lock up, right? Right? Let me tell you why I'm saying this. I'm saying this because if you create a private trust, oh God, man, let me not get frustrated and all passionate and stuff and start yelling and cursing. All right? Listen, okay? Because it's a private trust, it's automatically outside the jurisdiction of the United States government. What the fuck? Right? Automatically outside of jurisdiction of the United States government because it's a private trust. It's foreign automatically, okay? Right? Doesn't matter what EIN number you get, okay? Just saying, right? And I say it with frustration because these people are out here confusing people to all high holy hell. Need power. All right? Okay. Now, oh, this is so important. You guys are going to love this class. Okay. Right? Now, here's another problem. Another trick, another trap. Right? That's how they're hurting people out here. Okay? No one's saying or telling anyone what a private trust is, man. Okay? A private trust, we just said that you're operating in the public. This private trust is a business. What you don't know is that the Cesta KV trust that was created, the all capital letter name, the person, that's a corporation, right? You know it's a corporation, right? How is it a corporation? Who's running it? Right. See, here's the problem, right? Somebody else created that trust, right? It's a whole business with millions of dollars in it that other people are operating, okay? It's a business that you know nothing about. You're just the liable. You're just a scapegoat, right? In a party that's liable for the debts. Okay, it's crazy. All right, but it's a business that's being run that you have no inkling about. Now, when you create this new trust, it is a business. All right. Okay, right? In order for it to be considered as I don't want to say an official trust, but in order for it to exist, it needs to have certain things in place. It needs to have certain paperwork in place. There needs to be certain people in place. Okay? Your trust, or not your trust, that is a mistake to say. You are never supposed to say my trust, right? Okay? The trust has to have 3 individuals for it to exist, for it to be considered as a positive entity, okay? For it to live. It has to have a settlor or trustor. That is the individual who creates the trust and who transfers property into the trust, bringing it to life, which is called the trust corpus, or the body of the trust, right? It can be apples. It is suggested to use silver. It could be, I don't know, whatever's in your room, whatever's in your house, whatever you consider is valuable, right? It can be an idea, right? But we suggest silver because you actually put actual money, you have equitable interest in the trust, okay? But yes, so the settlor is the one who creates the trust, okay? So you need that individual. Now, the trustor or settlor who creates the trust is going to need someone that he or she can trust, because what you are doing is you're transferring your property and assets into a trust. That trust is going to be run by someone that you trust. Because when you transfer these things into the trust, that is so that no one can take anything from you. You don't own anything, so nobody can take it, right? But you, as the creator of the trust, would like to control everything that you transfer into the trust, right? Right? But your name can't be attached to these things. So you're going to need somebody to run the trust, okay? Right? Now, it is suggested that you have 2 trustees, right? You're going to need a general manager and a first trustee at least. So you're going to need 3 individuals. You're going to need yourself, you're going to need someone you can trust, and someone else you can trust. These people have to be written down on paper, okay, in your trust documents, or your trust is not real. Anybody tell you that? Your trust does not exist if those 3 people are not on paper. Anybody tell you that? Not sure. Listen, the trust also has to have a beneficiary, because the trust is not for you. The trust is not for you. The trust is not for you. Okay? You're going to make sure that you're taken care of, okay, through and with the trust. But you're creating the trust so that your children are taken care of, so that your family is taken care of, so that the charitable organization that you support is taken care of, so that whoever it is that you care about is taken care of. It could be your dog. You could leave everything in your trust to your dog if you wanted to. I'm just saying the trust, in order to exist, needs to have the settlor, the general manager, the first trustee, and a beneficiary, at least, in order to exist. Did anyone tell you that? Right. These people have to be on paper, okay? Right? In order for this new trust of yours to exist. Okay? I'm just saying. I'm going to let you dwell on that. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous what's being taught out here. Okay. Moving forward. Now, let's get into the new name. Legally, it's called a proper name. A scriptural or first name given at birth or baptism is in law denominated the proper name. Okay? And here's the reference to that. The federal courts have ruled again and again that changing your name at will or by common law or religious beliefs, is every citizen's right under the U.S. Constitution, which means that everyone that has been signed up, or everyone that works for the United States Incorporated, has the right to change their minds. Because you work for a company, you can quit, son. Like, I don't want to see, because I can't down other people. I can't talk down other people or belittle them because of what I think is common sense and logic. But look, once you find out that it's a company, it should register to you that there's some way to quit. You could just walk out the building. You know what I'm saying? I've done this at jobs. Just walk out and never come back. It's not about 2 weeks notice. It's not about, who cares? What are you going to do, right, if I don't give you 2 weeks notice? Who cares? I quit. Who cares? I'm out. I'm giving you nothing. I'm out. Right? You can quit your job, B. If they say that you know that if you're a citizen of the United States, that you're an employee you work for, it's cool. Quit. You could walk out the building and quit. Now, Yeah, now, it can be technical, it can be detailed, or not, son. Because, see, I'm teaching you guys steps and paperwork and, the process and everything. But listen, when I found out that my father wanted me to have nothing to do with any of this, I piled it all up. Listen to what I'm saying to y'all. I piled up everything with that name on it, and I got me a garbage bag, son, and I cleaned up my room. That's my every last word. I took everything with that name on it and threw it away. Didn't give a rat's ass about what tomorrow will bring, about what the next hour would bring. I learned that my father said, listen, I don't want you to have nothing to do with that. I said, oh, shit. I don't want to get in trouble, son. Right? I'm like, oh, because look, you can't be held accountable for what you don't know. Right? But once you know, you're going to be held accountable, son. So I'm saying, better have a good reason, son. You know what I mean? So, that's what I did. Everybody can't just do that. Everybody's not in a position to just do that. Right? And that's where I made a mistake, I made a mistake at first when, because when I learned this, I was like, oh, well, listen, y'all, listen, this is what y'all need. You need to just, you need to take everything with the I was telling everybody to do the same thing that I did. They couldn't do it, man, right? It's not that easy, Machete. Everybody's not you. Right? Because I already was in a position where I wasn't using none of that stuff anyway, right? But I had paperwork and mail, you know what I'm saying, with the name on it. So I got rid of everything, man. Seriously, right? So I didn't have any debt. I didn't have any, I didn't have that many contracts. You know what I'm saying? Last time I filed a tax was, well, not me, but last time I'd even seen somebody that did taxes was like 2001, some shit. I was a kid. So, yeah. All right. So, changing your name, you don't have to go to court to change your name, right? You now here's the trick. This is how they trick you. They tell you, right, that you don't have to go to court to change your name. You just change it. Just use something different. Just use a different name. Just all you have to do is change your name and use the different name and stop using the old one. But here's the thing, right? Who are you at that point? What side are you on? Do you still work for the United States? See, that's the problem. And that's the problem that these sovereign citizens have, and everybody that, believes in that they can be their own. I govern myself, and I'm my own jurisdiction. And listen, son, man, there's only two sides, right? And so either you have contracts with the devil or you have contracts with God. That's it. That's it. That's it. You either have right. You either have contracts with God or you have contracts with the devil. That's it. Right? So people have the problem where, they run into, I don't know, they get pulled over something, or, they have debt and they try to challenge it, right? And they get ignored or run into trouble, right? They try to say, that's not my name. My name is, right? Oh, boy. El Bay. Freeman, sovereign, man on the land. Right? It's my new name. What is my name? It's my name. That's my name, right? They change their name. They try to say it's their new name and new jurisdiction and common law, blah blah blah, yakety schmackety, right? What happens is, right? What side are you on? Excuse me, Mr. Free man on the land. what side are you on? I'm on my own side. I'm not. But listen, son, it's only two sides, right? It's kingdom of heaven, kingdom of hell, realm of the dead, realm of the living, the public, the private, good, evil, light, dark. I could go on for days, right? You're on what now? This is the problem. And I'm going to say this to y'all in this class. Here's the problem. Everyone, including you, everyone is on one side or the other, whether they like it or not, and whether they know it or not. It doesn't matter if they're in denial. It doesn't matter if they're ignorant of the fact that there's two sides only. It doesn't matter. It is a fact that everyone with any type of intelligence is on one side or the other, whether they know it or not, whether they like it or not. You know what I'm saying? That's just the truth, you know? And so it needs to be known that when changing the name, the baptism is the only safe way to do that. Because the baptism and the baptismal certificate is the evidence of your civil death. Go to a law dictionary, look up civil death. A civil death is when the person no longer exists. You no longer exist in the public. To the public, you don't exist anymore. Right? That's called a civil death. Okay? Right? It's evidence that you have changed sides. Evidence that you have changed sides. Right? And that you have nullified and voided the contracts with the devil and now have contracts with God. The baptism is the beginning of you creating evidence of your privacy. Okay? Right? Okay? Just saying. It's the only safe way to change your name, status, citizenship. The only safe way. Okay? Safe. Like, you know what I'm saying? Oh, boy. Now, the trust address. Let's get into the trust address. Because this is a gem class tonight. The trust address. Now, for the trust address, you will be using a virtual address. You are going to go online and you are going to look up virtual addresses. Let me explain what virtual addresses are. They are businesses that have suites. It could be a building with a suite in it. It could be, what they do is they give you an address in their building. They give you an address. There's companies that have addresses for sale. And they're really cheap. Right? So what happens is you obtain a virtual address. Using a P.O. box will not count, okay? And you'll understand why in a moment. Now, the virtual address is the trust address. All of your documents that everything that your transactions in the public after baptism will be done in a trust name. Right? And so the trust is going to need its own phone number, its own EIN, its own identification number. It's going to need its own address, right? It's going to need the bank account. And you, right, and your trustees are going to be authorized, right, to operate the trust. I hope this is clicking for some of you. Okay. So, your personal address. Now, people have problems with attachments and letting go and all that. I'm not going to lecture y'all on letting go. I'm just going to be real with you and say that you want to change your name, you want to change your status, you want to change your citizenship, right? But you just can't leave where you're at. There's just some things you can't let go of. Well, I'm going to tell you that eventually that's going to cause you a problem. Alright? Your new name, new life. Listen, it's called last known address. Alright? And so look, yes, you're baptized. Yes, you're a new man, new woman, right? But if there's anything that they could use to mess with you, they will. And the first place they're going to go is called the last known address of the person, to find the body that used to represent the person. Okay. All right. So, your personal address really should change, man. And if you don't, you could transfer your current residence into the trust name, which is pretty cool. Okay? Just letting you know what your options are. And so when, you see here it says personal address, renting a house. It doesn't matter whether you're renting a house, whether you're renting an apartment, whether you're leasing, mortgage. Listen, you're going to do everything in the trust name. Okay? The trust is going to have a bank account, an EIN number, just like you would. You're going to be written in as the authorized representative of the trust, as a trustee. So you will have every right and power and authority to do so. Nothing's going to be stopping you. I will throw a star in these notes to say next to it that the richest people on the planet are doing exactly what I'm telling you right now. They are. They have resources, and they have money and people and stuff, right? So they were able to climb that ladder faster. But knowledge is the power. Okay? So, that's how you handle the trust address and your personal address. And you should never mix the two. You should never have trust mail sent to your personal address. You should never have personal mail sent to the trust address. Don't do it. Don't do it. And don't do it. Just don't do it. Okay? Rule number one in the private sector is not to mix the public and the private. Try to never do so. Whenever you do, there's the potential of a problem. Okay? Now, these are extra notes. So, just like we said, whenever you operate in the public, you use a trust name. You have a car, you have a house, you have possessions that, you can transfer them into the trust. The name that you're going to be using to operate in the public with the trust is called the doing business as name. So you will be filing a fictitious name statement or a doing business as name statement. And how you do that, all you have to do, right, is put of course you're going to record it, right? Or you're going to have it sealed, right? Even though, well, I would say you have it recorded because this is you operating in the public. So that's cool, right? You're not trying to be completely private because you're doing this to operate in the public. So it will be recorded, right? Then it needs to be published, right? So notify that, stating that this is the name you will be doing business under, or that the trust will be doing business under, right? And you yourself, because you have created a new jurisdiction, you have to record everything and keep everything organized, or your trustees do, so keep that in mind also. Let's see, where else are we going here? Now, there are other details, but you already have those details in your Superman private file. And so, so far, that's the process. Of course, there's more, right? Because you'll be using a bank account. You'll be using an EIN number to open a bank account. You'll be using an EIN number to get business credit, right? Listen, right? They're like, oh, it's all coming together now. You understand why you're here. That's why I signed up for the school. Yeah. And so you realize how these people out there are being tricked and trapped. Okay, they're being tricked and trapped, and it's sad. But congratulations to everyone in this school. You made it out of the crap. You followed your spirit to the truth. And I commend you all on that. And your reward is your freedom and your redemption and your salvation and all that. And I think I just summed up 95% of the process. And so now nobody has an excuse for not being free. I helped everybody with how to get money, how to set up a business in the private sector. Nobody has an excuse for anything, really. And I did all of this. I set up the curriculum like this on purpose so that you guys wouldn't have to wait till graduation to spiritually graduate. And that concludes tonight's class. So, I know a lot of you guys' minds are just running around running around in circles right now, like, what did he just say? What did he just say? Yeah, I said it, right? And there's not going to be any Q&A at the end of this class. You want to know why? Because you guys are like partially in shock right now, and you need to absorb that. You need to absorb what you just heard. There's going to be certain words and phrases that you're going to want to Google. Go do that. Because yeah, that's the process, man. Making a long story short and a short story shorter, that's the process. But yes, love you guys. See you Thursday. It's always a pleasure doing this with you guys, and I look forward to everybody being out of this mess. Bless you all. Good night.